All right, I've been intimated that I'm Tolu Remy is right here with us on the show. Hello, Tolu. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, let's
Morning,
get
morning.
straight into it. Now, the transaction to acquire Nigerian Agip Oil Company is still pending regulatory approval. What are the key highlights for Oando in this particular deal, and what are the criteria needed to be met to obtain approval?
I think it's probably in the social media. I think one key important requirement for divestment of interest in an oil asset is consent, and just not consent, consent from one of your majority shareholders. And I think it is important that we clarify why this is necessary. You see, in an oil operation, the operator, and this is why this is creating so much ripples, because any who is divesting is an operator of that asset. And so once you divest as an operator, and the person who acquires it almost automatically acquires that operatorship right. Now, the majority interest holder wants to be assured that whoever comes in or will be coming in as an operator has the requisite technical capacity to walk that block. So that is the real reason why NEPL, and I'm sure you've obviously seen that later, why NEPL is quite concerned, one, about it not giving its consent or put quote unquote its blessing to that transaction. And more importantly, its understanding and confidence in Oando, who is going to be acquiring the assets, whether he has the capacity to operate the asset profitably and prudently. And so that's the real concern here. And it's not so much of the number of things you may have seen on social media that NNPC is opposed to it, etc. So one of the key important criteria, and it's in the contract between both parties, the joint operating agreement, that for any party to divest any part of his interest in an oil asset, you will need to seek a written consent and approval of the other party. The purport of this, I must say, is that it could be giving a character of a right of first refusal. And so if the other parties are able to acquire, but in this case, any is not divesting to a third party or to an outsider, it's divesting to a co-interest holder in the asset. But even that co-interest holder, the majority interest holder, which here is NEPL, needs some level of assurance that Oando is able to walk that field as an operator. If any wasn't the operator of this asset, I'm not sure there will be that much of a problem. I mean, it's simply just a transfer of interest from one party to another party. But because of the question of operatorship, I think it has become very necessary for NNPC to intervene and get that level of assurance that the incoming operator has the capacity to operate.
Yeah, so talking about the capacity of the incoming operator, that is Oando Plc. After some years of reporting losses, according to reports, Oando Plc returned to profit in its 2021 audited reports, and now there's a possibility that it may be delisted from the GSC and NGX. So the market is still expecting its 2020 reports, though. But then, does it mean that we shouldn't be too confident or we shouldn't be too excited about the possibility of the capacity of Oando to go ahead to acquire this particular asset and be able to manage it properly?
That would be a bit too harsh, right? If I were to put it in that manner. But let me say this, and I think it's important that we speak to ourselves. For you to be an operator, and which is why NEPL may be concerned, for you to be an operator, there are quite a number of things that you must satisfy your partners that you're capable of doing. One of the key elements of it is your environmental sustainability policy. Now, there's a report, I think it was done by McKinsey or so, that has established the fact that most of the violations of environmental sustainability policies have been done or committed by local companies or indigenous companies, as I always like to put them. And so any concessionaire or asset owner will be quite concerned as to whether or not it's operated, because the operator is really the man who walks the field. So when you hear a field is operating properly, really you give the credit to the operator, because that's the man who goes underwater and carries out the operation. And so, does Oando have that capacity, particularly the environmental sustainability plans for its other assets? Start with that, and then whether it's able to translate that into this particular asset. And then the question of capacity is also important. Don't let's forget. You see, oil operations is not it's not easy peasy. I'll put it in that mild way. And so for an indigenous company, and Oando, don't get me wrong, Oando is trying, is doing quite a lot in this market, and we're all proud of Oando. But again, you don't want to hand over an asset to an operator who is swamped with operating different assets. If it has capacity to multitask, there's no problem about that. But I think the capacity issue is what we are all concerned about.
Now, Tolu, let's also look at the other side that is talking about the agitation by workers, by the Agip workers, who are saying that the particular deal violated labor laws. Now, of course, we had thought that there wouldn't be any problem with this, but then we begin to see these challenges come up. So how do you feel, or what do you think the position should be in terms of this particular acquisition and what these workers are asking for? They're saying that there should be severance packages for the workers affected if this particular deal is done. They're saying that there's a violation of the labor laws, and they're also saying that there should be a smooth transition. So when we have issues like this, where does it place the deal in terms of the possibility of it being ratified?
Let me quickly make it very clear, and I see this a lot in some of these transactions. The employees have no business with divestment. Divestment is purely a commercial transaction between the owners of the asset. Now, there might be a consequence of such divestment on the employees. That does not mean the employees have a right to stop the divestment. I think it's preposterous anybody who's trying to do that. Now, look at the Petroleum Industry Act, and maybe we'll draw an analogy for that. The NNPC, pursuant to the PIA, transited into NNPL, right? NNPCL. There is a provision in the Petroleum Industry Act that makes it very clear that the employees of NNPC must transit into NNPCL and nobody must be sacked. Now, prior to 2021, when we enacted the Petroleum Industry Act, the DPR that has become NUPRC now already has a regulation that when you have such transition, you don't just terminate. And so if you're going to be considering downsizing at all, or you're going to be considering making redundant, the labor laws have become very clear. You must sit with the employees and have what we call the collective bargaining agreement. And so in the collective bargaining agreement, which I've been involved in quite a few of them, in the collective bargaining, it can be tough, I must say, because sometimes the employees may be unreasonable. Areas of the business that are no longer profitable and that the new acquirer would like to downsize, they might insist that, look, it has to go on. Because for them, it's also a survival situation.
Tolu, definitely we'll still get to bring you on in our subsequent shows to talk more about this particular deal. But then we want to say thank you so much, Tolu Adeyemi, partner, Perchstone and Grills LP, for talking to us on the show this morning. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Oando's acquisition of Agip signifies a transformative moment within Nigeria's energy sector, and this strategic move positions Oando as a major player. It enhances its operational capabilities and contributes to the country's economic growth, but it would need to quickly address its challenges to make headway in time. That's it on Business Edge for this morning and for today. You can follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. Head on to our website, www.newscentral.africa, and download our mobile app on App Store and Play Store. See you some other time. I am Lekon Onobanjo.